Tonight's target, the Department of Education. Now, it was founded under Jimmy Carter in 1980, has a budget of almost $50 billion, and has 5,000 employees. In the past 30 years, and all those billions spent, are kids getting a better education? Well, take a look at this graph. Spending per pupil has soared since 1970, while test scores have essentially stayed the same. This is the spending, that yellow line in the middle. Look at how much money has gone in, 150%. The blue line is reading scores, the green lines are science scores, and the math scores are somewhere in between. They're essentially flatlined on all the test scores, while the money has just gone through the roof. So, should the Department of Education be eliminated? Let us ask Adam Schaeffer. He is a policy analyst with the Cato Institute. He joins us now from Washington, D.C. Bottom line here, Adam, is there is a total disconnect between the amount of money spent and achievement on test scores, right?
That's absolutely right. I mean, I think the graph says it all. We've doubled per pupil spending at the federal level, the state level, the local level since 1980, and it really hasn't gotten us anywhere.
Now, I want to focus, Adam, if I can, on Washington, D.C., because all of the attention on these federal programs is focused on Washington. Washington becomes a kind of petri dish for politicians, right, since its budget, so much of its budget comes from the federal government. And what has happened in Washington, D.C., because now I understand, D.C., we are spending an enormous amount, more money per pupil than just about anywhere. What's happened to the test scores as a result?
There's a huge amount spent in that city, $28,000 per student in the last fiscal year, and test scores have bounced around. They've improved a little bit in the last few years. Michelle Rhee has been doing what she can with that huge, monstrous,
she's the education
bureaucracy.
commissioner, yeah.
That's right. But, you know, for all that money, they have crumbling buildings, unsafe schools, test scores in the toilet, and graduation rates that are just despicable. I mean, it's awful, the kind of destruction that they're wreaking on poor children's lives, I think.
Well, and it is awful because the poor kids don't have any options. If you're rich, if you're one of the elite in Washington, you can send your kid to a private school. But ironically, you send them to somewhere like Sidwell Friends, which is where the president, by the way, is sending his school. That's about the same amount of money per pupil out of your pocket that is coming from the government. It's about $28,000 a year, right?
That's right. It's about, I think it tops out at around $29,000. Most kids don't pay that $29,000. But
so
if
let me just stop you there, Adam.
The money, they could pay for any school.
Why not then give poor people the money? Just give them a voucher. Say, here's the amount of money the government is spending, $28,000. You can use it on a public school if you want, but if you want to use it at Sidwell Friends, you can also use it there.
It's a great question, and actually the federal government has a voucher program, DC voucher program, that Obama and the Democrats in Congress decided to kill. They're grandfathering in for now the kids that are currently in the program. They told 200 children that were supposed to get vouchers this year, sorry, we're taking those vouchers away from you. And the vouchers only go up to $7,500. But that's enough. That's enough to
it
get
doesn't
them into
equal. I mean, for a real
schools.
test for these vouchers, you would have to give a voucher that is worth the same amount as you would spend on a private school. And of course, the dirty secret here, Adam, is that the people against the vouchers are the unions. Again, the administration is going in lockstep with the unions, the public teachers unions, and they don't want to do anything to upset them, like a voucher system.
The unions, I'll tell you, the voucher program was priority #1 for them this year. They wanted that program killed.
Priority to kill it.
They got it.
And they got it.
They even sent a letter to all Democrats in Congress telling them exactly what they wanted from them, and they complied.
You know, Tom Sowell, the economist, did a terrific study looking at 4 academic high schools back in 1899 in Washington, D.C. There were only 4 high schools back then. 3 were white, 1 was black. The black academic high school actually scored higher than 2 of the 3 white academic high schools, even though it was much poorer, the physical plants were inadequate, average class size was higher. All the indices should have shown this black school scoring lower, and yet they scored higher until all of the money went into this school. This school still exists. It is now getting more money per student than any school in the country, public school, and yet its test scores are abysmal. What does that show you?
It has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with the money. We've seen this study after study, school district after school district. A lot of the worst school districts get a ton of money, some of the most money in the country. It doesn't do anything for them because the problem is not how much money you have, it's how it's used.
It's
and
how
we see
the
time and
teachers
again that they
teach.
waste money all over the place.
It's how the teachers teach. It's how the kids are treated. And frankly, some of the best schools are in some of the oldest plants with the least modern equipment.
That's right. I mean, you don't need a whole lot of equipment to learn. These kids in D.C. and elsewhere aren't learning how to read or do math. You don't need a planetarium. Fairfax County across the river has 9 planetariums. I don't know why you need that.
And you don't need
that to learn.
a Department of Education to come up with all these new fancy methods of teaching that don't work.
That's right. You saw the graph. Years of increased federal spending, years of increased state and local spending has had no effect. The Department of Education serves no purpose from what I can tell.
It's a bunch of bull. It's an absolute, and it infuriates me. I used to be a teacher, Adam, and I quit graduate school. I was actually getting a master's in teaching. I quit because they were teaching me things that I didn't think were working in the classroom, like sitting a kid in front of a fancy television that came directly from the federal government. If they didn't use that method, we weren't getting our grants. That's one of the reasons I quit teaching, Adam.
I didn't know that, but a lot of people have gone through the same experience. The structure of the teaching profession, the bureaucracy, the rigidity, the union rules, and the lockstep payment, it drives a lot of good people out of the teaching profession. It's
I don't know if I was one of the good people, but it's not rocket science, and you certainly don't need a Department of Education. If we cut that out, we save $50 billion a year. Adam Schaeffer from Cato Institute, great to see you. Thanks very much.